everybody. My name is Kimberly Norton Parks, and I'm the branch manager at the South Holiday Library. And we're here today with the Story Strong program. As usual, I'm going to kick it off to my cohort, Peter Cannon from the University of South Florida School of Information.
Hi, everyone. My name is Peter Cannon from the University of South Florida School of Information, and this is part of the Responsive Librarianship Lab program. And I will be your group discussion facilitator for the morning. Story Strong community programs are designed to help empower families and individuals as they navigate uncertainties presented by economic insecurity. Story Strong is part of the Library Build Communities Initiatives, a collaboration between University of South Florida School of Information and the Pasco County Public Library. Families will enjoy interactive and lively online discussions about books while engaging with members of the community to discover resources for critical help and support. This project was funded under the provisions of the Library Services Technology Act from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. Florida's LSTA program is administered by the Department of State's Division of Library and Information Services. We are excited to have two great speakers with us today to talk to us about financial issues. Our first, paying off debt, debt statistics, signs of financial stress, and how to reduce debt. And our second session is basic financial literacy, life skills, credit management, and identity theft. Now, our first speaker is Shari Breslin. Shari is the Family and Consumer Sciences Agent for the UF Pasco County Extension Office. She has had this role for 3 years, where she plans, designs, teaches, implements, and evaluates educational programs and curricula in family and consumer science topics, ranging from healthy eating, chronic disease prevention, food safety, money management, budgeting, and credit counseling. She's currently studying for the Accredited Financial Counselor certification. Shari, I'll go ahead and hand this off to you.
Thank you so much. Let's pull up my slides. Oops. Can you see the slides?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so thanks everyone for joining us today. So we're talking about paying off debts. So to start, let's just go over a quick scenario. Let's say you try to get in your car to go to work and the car won't start. You realize it's the alternator. The tow truck comes, takes it to the mechanic, and the cost to fix it is $400. So what do? What are your financial resources? Is it just a simple $400 you have to your name in the bank? You can just pay them in cash, check, or debit card that you have in your emergency fund. Or if you don't have an emergency fund, maybe you're going to rely on your credit card to pay for this, in which case it will actually cost more than $400 because you're going to pay late fees or credit card interest and the like. So this is just one scenario. There's obviously so many different little emergencies that can pop up, and it's so important that we do have emergency money to get us through. And if B was sounds more like you, then that's a good sign that you have financial stress, which we'll talk about. So basic statistics, the average US consumer the overall US consumer debt is over $13 trillion. All right, so that's from credit cards to cars, personal loans, all of that totals over 13 trillion. And the average credit card holder in America has at least 4 different cards, with the average debt being a little over $8,000 for the state of Florida. We are in the top 12 as far as highest credit card debt. 78% of US workers live paycheck to paycheck. We've probably heard that statistic. And 40% of Americans don't have $400 readily available in cash to get them through an emergency fund. That's where the previous slide came from with the $400. Now, it doesn't mean someone doesn't have $400 they can get. They just don't have it readily available in liquid cash. Maybe it's in a retirement fund. Maybe they can sell a piece of jewelry and get that $400. But the point here is that not a lot of us have $400 just sitting available in a bank account for us to access if we ever had an emergency. So what are signs of too much debt? And this is credit card debt, car loans, and the like. What are signs that we have too much of it? Well, maybe you don't even know how much you owe, all right? It's so much that you lost track or you don't even want to know. If you run out of cash, you will probably use your credit cards to fund your expenses. You might only be paying the minimum amounts. You're going over your credit card limits. You're trying to get new credit cards. When you do hit those limits, you're using cash advances to pay off other credit cards. You're paying late fees or skipping payments, might be refinancing, using a debt consolidation loan, or even having your wages garnished. If any of these apply to you, this would be a sign that you have too much debt, and it's a lot to handle. Now, what are some signs of financial stress overall? Well, some of that was from the previous slide. You can't make your monthly minimum credit card payments. There's too much month left at the end of the money, right? There's just not enough money to get through the very last day of the month and meeting all your monthly bills. Maybe your car is not worth what you're still paying the balance on. Having a hard time making your housing payments. You have to move more than once a year because your rent's going up and you can't afford it, or you're canceling different services, regularly withdrawing from ATMs. So you can see this whole list. All of this would be a sign of financial stress. So even if you're not noticing it, there is some math you can do too. So there's the debt payment to disposable income ratio. So this ratio tells us if your non-mortgage debt is too stressful for you. You would simply take your monthly debt payments and divide it by your monthly disposable income. All right, so you're looking at months. And so you don't count your mortgage. We already said that it's non-mortgage debts. And you don't count your monthly credit card balance if you pay them in full, because you just paid it as it was due and it's not considered a debt. All right, so think of student loans, car loans, personal loans, credit card debt. You would add all that and divide that by your monthly disposable income. Your disposable income is any income that's left once the taxes are paid, retirement withholdings are taken out, insurance premiums. Once all that's taken out, what's left is your disposable income. And this number should be 14% or less if you do the math on this. So an example, maybe somebody's disposable income is $3,000 a month and their debt payments are $1,500 a month. That would put you at a 50% ratio. So that is very high, excessively high debt, and that would definitely cause somebody money stress. All right, maybe they have two cars, say $600 a month on the two cars, so that's $1,200 right there in car debt. And then maybe we'll just say $300 on student loans. So, so that's how you would get to $1,500. And again, if you're bringing in $3,000, that is very hard to manage because that's just your debts. That's not even groceries. That's not your housing payments. That's not your basics. This is just the debt. So we want to pay off the debt. How do we do that? Why would we even do that? We probably think debt's just so common, right? If 78% of us are living paycheck to paycheck, we're probably putting a lot of that towards debt. But we don't want to live in debt, all right? Because paying off debt will free up our budget. If you were to have $300, let's say that you're paying towards your car and that was paid off, you can now have $300 extra a month to save, invest, enjoy. You can do whatever you want with that. And you can reach your financial goals sooner. So if you were trying to save down payment on a house or a vacation or a new car, you can reach those goals because you're not paying it towards debt. So how do you pay off debt? Well, you have to make a plan, all right? If you have an $8,000 car loan, you have to crunch the numbers and say, can you pay it off in 3 years, 5 years, longer? How long do you want to have this car loan in your life, right? It just depends how aggressive you want to be when you pay it off. So as you create a budget, you want to make sure that all of these debts are part of your budget. All right, right next to your housing payment, right next to groceries and your car insurance and all your necessities, how much does your budget show as putting your Visa bill, your car loan, etc. So to really tackle your debt payments, there's something that can help, and they call them power payments. And we will actually talk about that in a second. So really, why are we paying off our debt? And we already said this. We want to reach our financial goals. Are you trying to save for that down payment on a house? If all your money is going towards debt, that's very hard to do. You're not going to have an easy time reaching that goal or have to save for the deposit or the down payment. And then it lets you build your emergency funds. Emergency funds, they say, should be 3 to 6 months worth of expenses. And again, if all your money's going towards debt, it's hard and it takes longer to build that up. You'll also save a ton of money on interest, and all the money stressors that we talked about, you will feel less of that because you're not living paycheck to paycheck with so much debt. So power payments, we'll talk about PowerPay. You want to know exactly how much you owe with PowerPay. So you would write out all your non-mortgage debts into the website, and it pretty much does all the math for you. So we're actually going to quickly go over what this website looks like. And it would be powerpay.org. And I'm going to pull up my other screen, so bear with me for just a second. All right, I'm gonna stop sharing for just a second. Here it is. All right, can you all see the powerpay.org?
Yes.
Perfect. All right, so when you go to powerpay.org, it'll ask you to make an account. So you'll just fill out your name and email, and you can then enter your debts. So for example, we have credit card A with a balance of $8,000, minimum payments $160 a month, interest rates 22%. Credit card B, $2,000 balance, minimum payments 25, 15% interest. The car loan, $15,000 on that. You can see there the payment and the interest. And then lastly, a student loan at $30,000. And you also see there the payment and the interest rate. So you can do all that. You enter that in, and then you would go to, well, actually, let's go back down a second. So you see the last column, payoff time. It tells you how long it would take to pay these off if you were not tackling these debts aggressively. And we'll actually see that in the next one, because you would then go to payment calendar. And it wants me to log in, but I think I had it on another tab, which I did. Okay, so some people might say, when I pay off my debts, do I go by highest interest, lowest balance? And you can see here, it really doesn't matter. You'll see 9 years, 8 months for pretty much everything. If you go by your shortest term, 9 years, 9 months. So just by 1 month extra. If you do not do anything and just keep the debts in your life and pay minimum balances, you can see that last one. It will take 99 years and 11 months to pay off all of those debts. And again, that's just you being content with the debts and making those minimum payments. So we'll see what that looks like. But also notice in the last column, or the second to last and the very last, how much interest are you paying? How much are you saving? All right, look at all the interest that gets saved if you're tackling all these debts. All right, in the around $23,000, $24,000 when it's all said and done. Or sorry, savings in 35 to 34, and the interest paid. So big difference on the interest paid. And you see you're not saving anything if you're not making power payments. So what is a power payment? Well, let's scroll down and look. So it'll give you an option how you want to approach this. So if we just say highest interest rate first, There's all our debts, the credit card A, credit card B, the student loan, and the car loan. All right, so minimum payments are being paid. And then you'll see as you keep scrolling down that which one was this one? The car loan is paid off by February of 2026. All right, so we'll figure this was a 5-year car loan. So what do you do with that extra $280 a month? You'll notice it goes to credit card A. So now the 160 that you were paying all along and adding into that the 280 from the car loan goes into that credit card. And as you keep scrolling, you'll see in about a year, now the credit card A is paid off by August 2027. What do you do with that extra 440? Well, you can see this is what we call the debt snowball. Now that's going towards credit card B, which you knock out in just a few months, and then the rest to that student loan, which you then finish paying off by October of 2030. So what does it look like if you're not tackling your debts, you're not doing the debt snowball, you're not applying extras? It will show you when you click on without power payments, and it wants me to log back on. Okay. So what does that look like without power payments? Well, you'll see the car loan was still paid off by February 2026. But look, that 280 from the car, if you don't apply that to other debts and you continue paying the minimum and you keep scrolling down, look how long these debts drag out. You'll pay off that first credit card in the year 2032. You'll then pay off next the student loan by the year 2038. And this credit card B, if you just keep making the $25 minimum payments month after month after month, you'll see you will not be out of this debt until the year 2121. So basically you will live with this debt for the rest of your life if you do not have a plan in place to get rid of the debts. And we also saw at the top what we're saving each month or each year, or in total, how much interest is being paid. If you're not making power payments, $60,000 is going towards interest. If you were to attack this with the debt snowball, do your highest interest rate first, $23,000 towards interest. Big, big difference. So you're gonna save money, you're gonna get this debt out of your life if you come up with a plan. So PowerPay.org is a great option to do that. And I encourage everyone to check this out because this initial information is free. There's other stuff, I believe they do webinars and stuff like that that have a small fee to it. But at the very least, payment calculator and calendar and see what that looks like. So just to wrap up here. So I showed you all PowerPay. So thank you all for joining this segment of our presentation. If you have any questions, there's my email, and I also do private one-on-one financial counseling. So if somebody had questions, coming up with a plan, helping with budgeting, etc., go ahead and email me and we can also set you up. And this is also statewide. So if you know anyone across the state of Florida that needs help, we do private financial counseling across the state with my University of Florida colleagues. So thank you, everyone.
Great, thank you. That was excellent. I'm going to move now to our second speaker. Our second speaker is Nicoya Lloyd. Nicoya started her career in financial aid as a federal work studies student in 2007 in the USF Financial Aid Office on Central Campus. That's in Tampa. Shortly after graduating with her bachelor's degree from the University of South Florida in 2010, she secured a full-time position as a financial aid advisor. Nicoya remained on the Central Campus until 2017, where she assisted in awarding federal, institutional, and private aid. After earning her master's degree from USF, Nicoya joined the USF Health Office of Financial Aid as a financial aid team manager and a financial literacy program manager. Nicoya was charged with developing a comprehensive program to introduce financial literacy to all students at USF Health. The financial literacy program at USF Health offers one-on-one financial wellness coaching, class presentations, webinars, and workshops. Nicoya covers a variety of topics that include but are not limited to budgeting, credit management, identity theft, responsible loan borrowing, and repayment, savings, and investments. In June 2020, Nicoya was promoted to assistant director and is currently studying to obtain her accredited financial counselor certification. Nicoya is an active member of the National Association of Student Financial Administrators, Southern Association of Student Financial Administrators, and the Florida Association of Student Financial Administrators. Nicoya?
Thank you for that introduction. I'm going to share my screen really quickly. And if you guys just give me a thumb, well, I can't see any faces, but if you let me know if you can see that.
And
I see it.
All right, perfect. Thank you. So today I'm going to talk about credit management, and it's just-in-time education. A lot of us don't really think about credit until it's time to apply first a loan or apply for a mortgage or obtain a car. But I like to introduce credit early on into your career so you can start to build that credit. A lot of times when you apply for credit, you'll hear where you haven't been approved because you have a thin line of credit. So we try to avoid that, and we try to start our students with actually building their credit now. So when they do enter additional borrowing methods, they have credit established. So on the agenda for today, we're going to talk a bit about what is credit, your credit scores, your credit reports, and how to access the credit reports, how you can manage a dispute, identity theft, because we do know that definitely plays a part when it comes to credit, some key takeaways, and how you can contact me as well. So for credit management, I'm gonna have to remove that, sorry. A credit is an arrangement you make with a company or an individual to receive goods or products. It's a valuable risk management tool. So it's going to let the lender know how risky is it for me to extend a line of credit to this individual. Keep in mind that your credit score is not a part of your credit report. So that's an additional step you have to take if you want to obtain that credit score. And there are a number of different models. There's no one particular credit score. So you'll hear people saying, well, my average score is this. So we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So what makes up your credit score? So when you're looking to build your credit score, you're going to have to make sure that you understand the different components of a credit score. So largely 35% your payment history. So are you making those on-time payments? This is something that your lenders are going to really look at to determine whether or not they can actually extend a line of credit to you. 30% of that is your amounts owed. So how much debt do you have? What is your debt to income ratio? They're going to look at these different things as well. Another portion is the length of credit. So as I mentioned earlier, some of our students, they don't have credit because they don't have a credit card in their name or nothing to show their credit history. And also the different types of credit. So you'll hear me refer to credit mix. So they want to say, do you have a credit card on file? Do you have maybe a mortgage? Do you have a car loan? So what actually makes up your credit score? What are the different types of mixes that you have in your account? And also new credit is about 10% of your score as well. So they're going to look at how many applications are you putting in. Are you applying for a credit card every week? So they're going to take into that consideration as well. And all of these components is what makes up your credit score. So as I mentioned, there is no one particular credit score. So there are different types of credit scores that you'll hear people referring to, largely known as FICO. That's one of the main scores that lenders look at when it comes to like obtaining a mortgage or obtaining an auto loan. So you definitely want to know what your FICO score is. And once again, this is the most commonly used credit score. Your Vantage scores. So Vantage scores are created by partnerships of the three credit bureaus, which is Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion. We'll talk about those a little later as well. But Vantage scores, so when you go to Credit Karma and you see that score, that's typically your Vantage score. That's not your FICO score. These are commonly used as well for different things like applying for maybe a Macy's card or applying for a grocery store, different things like that, credit cards. And then FACO score, this is something kind of old that is not currently used. A lot of lenders don't really look at FACO scores. This was created by a third-party company, and they use a certain algorithm to determine your score. But once again, most lenders do not look at FACO scores anymore. So your primary goal is to make sure that you know your FICO scores, the middle of that, and your Vantage scores. So how do we establish credit? So once again, you'll hear someone say, well, you have no credit, or you have a thin line of credit. So how do you build that? How do you get into good standing for people to offer you an additional line of credit? So the first thing to do is to apply for a secured credit card. So a secured credit card is not going to be your Amex card or your Discover. It's going to be a card almost kind of like a prepaid card. So this is where you would go to apply for a credit card. They'll say, okay, we'll offer you $500, but you need to put down $200 of that. And when you do that, then they're going to look at your credit history, determine how you're making those payments. And then based on that credit history, they're going to determine whether they can extend you a full authorized credit card. Applying for a secured card is going to be the first step to actually building some credit and showing your risk management when it comes to lenders as well. So self-lender is something that has been coming up on the rise within, I believe, the last 3 or 4 years. Similar to a secured card, you can actually extend the line of credit. So you'll say, okay, I'm going to put down $800, and over the year, I'm going to pay a certain amount of money, but this is the money that you're fronting. And then you're going to do that in order to show the lender that you're actually making good on your payments. Using store cards. So as I mentioned, your Vantage scores kind of are used to determine whether you can apply for a Macy's or a dealer's card. And once you do that, you're going to actually start to build credit as well. And with these cards, you want to make sure that you attempt to pay off the balance each month or applying for a gasoline credit card. So typically when I first tell my students to start to build a credit card, apply for a gas card. Instead of using your debit card to pay for your gas, you want to put this on your credit card, and then each month you pay that balance off. That's going to help you quickly increase your credit score. Another thing is to get a responsible co-signer, and the key word is responsible here. So you want to look to talk to someone who you trust and see if they can maybe co-sign for you and to help you build that credit. Another thing that students, I like to tell my students or clients, is to see if you can become an authorized user on someone else's credit card. So when I was first starting off with my credit, my mom has excellent credit, excellent payment history and everything. So I became an authorized user on her credit card. And what that does is she adds me to her card as a user. She of course didn't give me her credit card. I didn't have access to that credit, but she did add me as an authorized user. So I immediately got access to all of her credit history, her line of credit and everything. So I was able to kind of build off of her credit. This is something that a lot of people are doing nowadays. But once again, you want to make sure that you're being responsible and that you're using someone, because if they miss a credit or anything, miss a payment, that's going to reflect on you as well. So this is going to be a quick way for you to actually build some credit as well. So what causes bad credit? So what causes bad credit? Making late payments. One late payment will automatically reflect on your credit report. And we'll talk about, I believe in a couple of slides, that'll show you how long that's going to last on your report. But exceeding the limit on your credit card. So you'll see that you maxed out your card, but then once you max out your card, there's always a certain fee that's added to your credit card each month. So that's how it comes. That's how extending the credit limit comes into play when you're over your limit. Writing bad checks, of course, I always say you do not write a check unless you have the money secured in your account. You don't want to depend on a payment, say, well, I get paid in 2 weeks. You always want to make sure that you write checks with access to that funding. Defaulting on a loan, filing for bankruptcy, identity theft, which we'll go into a little as well, or borrowing more than you can afford, and allowing overdue accounts to remain in your credit report. And just keep in mind that poor credit is extremely expensive. It does result in higher interest rates, which of course results in the more money that you spend overall for that debt. So we'll talk a little bit about credit reports. Financial report card is, your credit report is like your financial report card. So I kind of use my students to say, you know, your GPA. Well, your GPA is your academic history. The credit report is going to be your financial report card. So it's a personal credit report that includes a record of all your financial accounts and obligations. And this is a report is sometimes called a credit file or credit history. So credit report companies collect and organize data about your creditors, about your public record. All right. So some of the components of a credit report. So these are some of the things that you'll see once you print out your credit report. You're identifying information. So you'll see phone numbers, old addresses, different things like that, ways that people can identify you. Account information, public record information, any inquiries, which is anything that you apply for, and then dispute instructions as well. Those are going to be components of your credit report. So these are some of the things that are not on your credit report. Criminal background, so nothing regarding criminal history is on your credit report. No medical information is on your credit report. Buying habits, transaction data, fortunately, is not on your credit reports. Bank account information, credit scores, interest rates, race or religion, sexual orientation, political affiliation, income, salary. None of these things are going to be outlined on your credit report. So as I mentioned earlier, some of the things when you apply for different things, they remain in your credit reports for a long number of times. So different types of account. Open accounts are in good standing. Any account that you have that's open in good standing, that's going to remain in your credit report indefinitely, which is a good thing because that's going to show your credit history as well. Close accounts in good standing. So anytime that you close account, whether or not it's in good standing or not, it's going to stay in your credit report for 10 years. Later missed payments. So one late payment will remain in your report for 7 years. Collection, civil adjustments are 7 years as well as Chapter 13 bankruptcy is for 7 years. Now, Chapter 17 bankruptcy is about 10 years. Unpaid lien is 10 years. And then note that paid tax lien. So if you have a tax lien and then you pay that lien off, it's still going to remain in your report for 7 years. So you want to make sure that you're being very cautious when it comes to applying for different things or missing payments. And then also credit inquiries. So if you apply for a credit card, that's going to remain in your report for 2 years. So keep that in mind as well. A credit report contains information about your credit, your bill replacement history, and the status of your credit accounts. So how you access your credit report, of course, you want to go to annualcreditreport.com, and it's going to pull up the 3 major reporting agencies, Equifax, Experience, and TransUnion. Please note that you typically can pull your credit report for free once a year. It's very important to pull your credit report at least once a year to make, and I always suggest doing this on your personal computer where you can save your files so you can actually go through and weed through some of that information. Keep in mind that once again, your credit score is not going to be disclosed automatically on your credit report. You will have, at the very end, they'll ask you, do you want to access that score? And there is a small fee associated with that. So typically, as I mentioned, you do have once a year to pull that credit report, but due to COVID, you're actually able to pull your report every single week until April of this year. So this is an awesome tool that they have extended for you guys because, of course, during COVID, identity theft has kind of been on the rise a little bit. So you're able to actually pull this. So if you have not pulled your credit report, please take advantage of this as well. And this is once a week until April 2021. So sometimes when you pull your report, you'll notice that there are things on your credit that don't actually belong to you. There may be a house in Vancouver that you've never, hopefully you will know about that. But typically there are things on there that maybe don't belong to you and you want to dispute that. So you do have the option to dispute anything on your credit report. But please note that when you dispute something, you have to dispute to each different agency separately. They don't necessarily talk to each other when it comes to disputes. So if you want to dispute something on your TransUnion, and it's also on your Equifax and your Experian, you have to do it on both your credit reports as well. So keep that in mind. So how do you process a dispute? It's very simple. There are templates out there that allow you to just plug in your information into the template. So you want to identify what the issue on your credit report. And then you say, okay, I know for sure that this is not something that I have applied for or something that a credit card that I have. And then you want to dispute it. You want to identify with each credit report. It may be on all 3 or it may only be on 2. So you're gonna have to do your research when it comes to that as well. Investigate. And then once, so the credit bureaus have about 30 days to look into your file once you submit the dispute. After that, they'll either make a change to your report, meaning they'll update it, say, well, you didn't borrow 10,000, you borrowed 8,000. So they'll make that change. Or they'll delete the information if they cannot prove it's yours. They'll also decide and then notify you. One thing I like to tell people to make sure that you get everything in writing when it comes to disputes. And then they'll update your credit report as well with the new information reflected. So we're going to talk very briefly about identity theft because this is one of the main things that can kind of hinder your credit when other people get your personal information to use it for their gain. So identity theft is when someone uses someone's personal information without their permission, and they may open a credit card, apply for a loan, or different things of that nature. And then the person is not aware of this information. So sometimes, of course, the payments are missed because it's not going to hinder that person who's taken out that line of credit in your name. So typically who's targeted? The Federal Trade Commission shows that young adults ages 18 to 24 make up the largest percentage of identity theft victims. So we kind of did a little research about this because these are kind of our students. So we typically found out that it's typically college students who are leaving their computers around or using other people's shared computers, different things of that nature. So the age group is 18 to 24 that's targeted the most. Methods of identity theft. So stolen wallets, purses, phishing. So you'll see that if you go to like the gas stations, it was kind of big in Hillsborough County a couple of years ago where they were actually replacing the credit card machines with other systems to actually swipe the credit card information. So when you insert your card, instead of it going to the gas station, someone will actually feed that information and have access to your records. Skimming, stolen or diverted mail, dumpster diving, internet hacking. In the world of social media, people do have access to more information than they typically would. So these are some of the ways that people can kind of take advantage and do identity theft. So some ways to prevent identity theft. You want to make sure that you're frequently reviewing your credit report. So keep in mind that when you open a new line of credit, it may not automatically show on your credit report. It may take 30 to 45 days to reflect on that credit report. So just make sure you're continually taking advantage of the weekly pulling file that's going on now due to COVID, and just making sure that you're constantly on top of that. If you can consolidate your accounts. This means if you have multiple credit cards, you can consolidate those or transfer balances just to make sure that you're keeping up to date with the different things in your name. You want to make sure that you secure and guard all of your computers. So as I mentioned with our college students, we do make sure that we're extremely trustworthy. So we see computers lying around all the time on campus. So we try to remind our students to make sure that you're putting your computer on sleep mode or making sure that it's locked or that you don't save any bank account passwords or anything to your computers where you're normally leaving that around. Another thing is you want to avoid commonly used passwords. Once again, I kind of had a password that I used for everything during college. You want to make sure that you kind of get creative. And some of the tools are kind of making you use different uppercase letters, lowercase letters. So the systems are getting a little more easier to come up with a password that's not as commonly used as well. So how do you resolve identity theft? There's a couple different steps that you will need to take to prove that you're not the one who actually took out this line of credit. The first thing you want to do is contact the security or fraud department for each business where the account was opened and charged without your knowledge. Once again, you want to follow up in writing. Everything you need to have is going to be done in writing, and keep documentation until that account is resolved. And even when it's resolved, make sure that you still have a lockbox or something that you can keep that information on file just in case it comes back up on your credit report. You can complete an identity theft affidavit as well. And this is going to be a written statement, and this is just going to let lenders know that this person has been a victim of identity theft to proceed with caution when authorizing a line of credit. You want to file a report with law enforcement officials. Report to the creditor the accounts that you know or believe have been tampered or opened without your knowledge. And also you want to report to identity theft to Consumer Financial Protection Bureau as well. Once again, this is going to let lenders know that there's going to be like a flag on your report when you authorize. So they may ask you additional questions when you're applying. It may be a little pain at first, but you want to make sure that you know that they're doing their job to make sure that they are actually offering you the line of credit in your name. So you can apply for fraud alert protection. So what is fraud alert? So for a fraud alert is used to inform creditors that you may be a victim, as I mentioned earlier. And this is going to just let people know that, hey, we may need to take a deeper dive before extending line of credit to this person. So there are 3 different types of fraud alerts that you can apply. One is the initial. This is if you suspect that something has happened, but you haven't really seen anything. You may get a letter in the mail from a credit card that you never applied for. So if you expect something on your credit report, but you haven't had any solid evidence, you want to just put an initial fraud alert on your account. These last for about a year, so it's going to protect you for nearly a year. Now, if you know for sure that you are a victim of identity theft, you want to do the extended fraud alert. That lasts for 7 years. So that's going to protect your credit for about 7 years. And then they also have active duty military alert as well, which is about a year. So these are the 3 different types that you can look into when you're looking at protecting your identity theft. So some of the key takeaways: you want to view and monitor credit report repeatedly. You want to make sure that you pay your bills on time. Know the components that make up your credit report, your credit score if you're trying to build your credit at the moment. know how to actively dispute items on your credit report, utilize credit cards to improve your credit score, and utilize systems to monitor your credit score often. And once again, you want to always make sure that you protect your identity as well. So any questions? I'm going to stop sharing. I'm sorry, my daughter's back there singing. I was like, can you stop singing? Oh my God.
Right?
So sorry, I apologize about that.
No, that's great. Adds to it. I think that makes it more exciting. That was great. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, both of you. Since we're doing this asynchronously, I'd like to ask a question. Each of you could answer, but this is stressful times that we're dealing with. We don't have a lot of money. A lot of families are struggling. What's the first thing you do? I know, Sherry, you talked about PowerPay and using technology, and Nikora, you talked about securing credit. But if I'm living paycheck to paycheck, what's the first thing I could do to at least maybe stop the bleeding, the financial bleeding, and to stop the anxiety?
You want to take that, or you want me to answer that?
You can go ahead first. Yeah.
Okay. So the first thing you need to do is create a budget. So I do a one-on-one session with our students, and we create a budget. You need to know where you are and to determine why you're living paycheck to paycheck. Sometimes situations just happen, and that's just the situation that you're in. But when you create a budget, you know exactly where you are. I like to tell people the scariest thing you can do is print out your last 3 months of credit card, of your bank statements, to see where your money is going every month. So we sit down, bring me your last 3 statements, and we're going to circle where your money is going. We're going to characterize how much you spent on eating out, how much you spent on gas, how much you spent on entertainment. And we're going to see where, if you're paycheck to paycheck, where can we pull back in some of these areas? So that's what we do, your last 3 months. You can do the last month, but 3 months gives us a really good average of what you're actually spending. So we go through that, and then and you'll say, oh my God, I can't believe I spent $80 at McDonald's in the last 2 months. And so we'll say, okay, you did that. So our goal next month is to spend $30 on eating out. So we kind of go from there and see where we can, when we create that budget, where can we pull back from to make room so we're not so stretched when it comes to finances.
Sherry?
Exactly. The budget's going to be your key. That's your map. See, again, maybe you're paycheck to paycheck, but it's for unnecessary things and leisurely things. So see what you can cut out and cut back. And if it is eating out, okay, well, you're gonna pack a lunch and go and take that to work every day. You're not gonna eat out with your coworkers anymore, because that's paycheck to paycheck, and that'll free up money. People don't realize, a lunch out, a coffee here and there, how much that adds up and so quickly, and it makes people struggle. Now, if someone's already, doing, bare minimum and they're still paycheck to paycheck, that might just also be an income problem. Maybe they need a second job or a side hustle, just to try to, get caught up with bills, and also just focus on the more important things. Someone might pay their electric bill and not their rent, but if you're eviction, what's the point of having a current electric bill? So you want to prioritize your debts too. If you are really in dire straits with your finances, you want to prioritize what's more important. Housing, groceries, stuff like that would be more urgent than, paying Visa, let's say. You want to make sure you're prioritizing, and working with someone like Nicoya or myself can also help. We'll work out the budget, we'll crunch the numbers, we'll look at your lifestyle and help, make revisions to your budget.
And I guess this is for both of you again. When you talk to people, is there like one thing that most people get wrong, like a myth that's out there that, people don't quite understand, but if they did understand it a little bit better, that it would make a difference?
I hear a lot, people want to immediately go out and get a credit card and the credit score. And there's nothing wrong with that. But the myth is that if you're already struggling, the credit card is so easy to abuse, and it could make someone further struggle and into deeper debt, and maybe get bill collectors calling them, etc. So if someone's not really where they need to be with their financial behaviors, the credit card's not going to help them. Even if they think the credit score is going to go up, it's just going to cause more hassle, really. It's just another debt they're going to incur. So I'd like to tell people, learn the basics. You can get one of those little credit cards through the bank that has a prepaid amount on it. And then once you learn the discipline of using the credit cards and delaying gratification and making sure you can pay only what you have in the bank, once you learn those basics, then the credit card is okay. But it comes down to behavior, and people that don't have the behavior and the habits down immediately get that credit card, and it just exacerbates their problem.
Nicole?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Thinking the credit card is the answer, because as Shari mentioned, if it's behavior. So if you don't have that behavior and that restraint when it comes to credit cards, you're going to abuse it. So I tell my students 30% utilization is key. So if you can't manage your day-to-day, you may want to be cautious of applying for a credit card, because when you see that you have $1,000, you're going to get closer and closer to that limit. So I do think that credit cards can be a beautiful thing, and sometimes it can be a very scary thing. But I always weigh on the caution of, when it comes to credit cards, we sit down and look at the different types of credit cards as well. Applying for a credit card that maybe can offer you an award incentive as opposed to just a standard credit card. So definitely credit cards. And another thing I would say with our students, they are always depending on money to come. They always know that someone is going to give them money down the future. So I tell students, when you make a budget, we're not going to say what you're going to get for your birthday next month. Your uncle always gives you $500. You just know he's going to give you $500 this year as well. What's in your bank account right now? What can we actually solidify and know that this is going to be? This is what we're going to make your budget off, not on funding that you think may come.
Right. That's great. Excellent. I know none of us have those problems, right? I'd like to, while I have you two here, I'd like to take an opportunity if we could bring in Kiara, who's also part of our team. Those of you who aren't familiar with the Story Strong program, we have a member of the mental health community here. Hey, there we go. Do you want to go ahead real quick, introduce yourself? She's an essential part.
Good morning. My name is Kiara. I'm a Bachelor of Social Work student here at USF. I'm just doing my internship with this lovely group of people here. We usually do these informational sessions and book clubs here. Did you want me to do like the email as well?
Yes, if you don't mind.
So if anybody wants for future sessions or any questions or comments or concerns that you may need, important resources, you can email us at storystrongbookclub@gmail.com. Send any of your questions there and we will get back to you as soon as possible. And I'll put it in the chat as well.
Excellent. Do we have any other questions from our panel? That looks like a no. Excellent, great. Well, thank you very much. Again, thank you, Shari, and thank you, Nicoya, for coming on today and telling us about financial literacy, especially during these times of financial insecurity. And we can go ahead and put your email out there if you want to go ahead. I think we have both your emails. Is that correct?
Yes, I just posted mine in the chat as well.
Excellent, great. And if we have any further questions, if we don't have any further questions, we're going to go give it back to Kim to close it out, I guess.
All right, everybody. Next time, we'll see you guys next week, hopefully, for those of you who are here. And we'll start a new month, and our topic is going to be anxiety. Pretty relevant stuff.
Right.
And if you have any questions, just give anybody a chat, and we'll see you next week.
Great. Thank you very much. And thank you to our speakers, and we'll see everyone soon.